case scenario, as you described it, Mike, unfolded today in less than an hour.
So quick.
And when you talk about the worst case scenario, what that would be, just to recount what has happened, although we certainly know the aftermath of what has happened, but weather-wise, what actually happened was that there was no storm at all right before 2 o'clock in the afternoon. In fact, I was just looking at my texts just now, just kind of going through them and looking back to the afternoon, and I have a text here to Reed Timmer at 1:54 p.m. Quote, wow, spinning plume 12 north of Chickasha. That was the initial cloud that went up at 1:54 p.m. this afternoon. And then I took some notes looking at the Doppler. The tornado set down at 2:48 p.m. and went rapidly violent at 2:48. That is under 1 hour's time. So that is as fast as it gets. So it is the worst case scenario. Of course, from there it went to an F5 very, very quickly with a debris ball at 1.2 1/4 miles wide. The only comparison I think we can draw to this, not that there is a comparison because there isn't, is Joplin, Missouri. In modern times, it's the only comparison we can draw for you folks that do track these tornado disasters. You see them on nightly news around the country. Tuscaloosa, Alabama, for example, May 3rd, 1999. The closest comparison by far to this tragedy tonight is Joplin, Missouri. A very similar situation, nothing to an F5 in just right at an hour's time, and a very wide F5 going right through a major metropolitan area. And this will be a more devastating dollar-wise tornado than Joplin, Missouri. This will be the #1 dollar-damaging tornado in today's dollars in the history of the world. I'm completely confident of that based on the devastation we have seen from our ground crews and Bob Moore Chopper 4 and the live video of the tornado going through Moore. Obviously now to everybody it is just that devastating. Let's take a look at what's going on right now. Tornado warnings over in LaFleur County, Sallisaw, Sequoia County, Haskell County pushing into Arkansas, trail of severe weather, large hail damaging winds back down to about Ardmore right now. Let's go to the storm scanner. And you see the line of storms now runs from near Ardmore over into southern and central Missouri. Severe weather approaching St. Louis, Missouri now. And the Moore storm now is east of Springfield, Missouri, racing toward southeast Missouri is where it is right now. It's way northeast of Branson, Missouri. That is the Moore storm. You can see that larger one right there just near the D in Springfield, Missouri. And we are clear here in Oklahoma City right now, but there is some energy in the jet stream approaching from the west. So we'll see some rain, I think, develop as we head through the overnight hours tonight. Let's back up here and take a look at Mike Bennett's video again. We had a lot of trackers out today, including Bob Moore Chopper 4, and Mike Bennett was taking a look at this initial development. There it is in that barrel shape or elephant trunk shaped tornado. It was already violent, and that was out at Newcastle. This is not too far from 149th Street Southwest, down around Newcastle and the river and Penn Avenue, far southwestern Oklahoma City, if you will. And Mike was tracking this, and it was moving east-northeast, and as we know, it did turn more to the east. May 3rd turned more to the north. This one turned more to the east, and Mike had to back out of it for a little while because it made that turn right down 19th Street in Moore and hit the Warren Theater and the Moore Medical Center. So he had to back out a little bit because it did turn to the east, and you can clearly see the violent nature of this F5 tornado. At one point, again, the debris ball was 2 1/4 mile wide. For those of you who may not have been watching our live coverage, just to kind of add to the information, here is the radar loop from the South Doppler. There's the South Doppler near Newcastle, and you can see right there before your eyes, there's Bridge Creek. This is the Bailey Turnpike right here. That's Newcastle, and this is Moore right here. You can see the hook in its rapid developmental stages as the tornado was first setting down southeast of Tuttle as it was approaching Newcastle, and Mark Dillard reported some extensive damage, some severe damage in North Newcastle, right up there near the Newcastle Casino. So this was the beginning of the event, and that would have been at exactly 2:48 p.m., Kevin and Linda, this afternoon. It crossed I-35 in the Warren Theater at 3:24.
Thank you very much, Mike. Now you're showing us some of that video. We know that Emily Sutton and photojournalist Kevin Josephy were on that storm as well, oftentimes getting a little out of position as it moved toward them. Take a look.
There
There it is. It's right there.
As we raced down I-35 towards Moore, photojournalist Kevin Josephine and I had no idea we were about to stare in the face of a monster EF5 tornado.
Yes, we have the tornado right in front of us, right in front of us.
We veered off the 19th Street exit near the Warren Theater, giving a direct view of the tornado. Debris swirled around the intense circulation of the massive wedge grinder. Only a half a mile from the vortex, we slammed south to get out of its path, only to be hit by 80 to 90 mile per hour RFD winds.
We're in the path now.
Where do we go? South?
South. Just go south. Yeah, go south. Keep going. We're okay. We're pulling away from it, Emily. We're doing fine. We're pulling away from it.
Once the tornado passed I-35, we looped around only to be showered with mountains of debris, and our hearts sank. We continue to track the wedge tornado east along southeast 149th Street as it slowly decreased in intensity.
Yeah, it's weakening. It's dying.
The tornado roped out 10 miles east of Moore, leaving devastation and chaos in its wake. And even after a long day of tracking tornadoes, debris is still stuck to the forewarned storm team chase vehicle. If you look very closely, it's actually insulation from houses, proof of the devastation from this tornado. For the forewarned storm team, I'm Emily Sutton.
And we were on live when that tornado roped out, and it was so huge. And then just as quickly as it formed, it disappeared. I mean, a monster that just disappeared.
A monster that was 2¼ miles wide at the bottom turned into that little rope and left behind
And it was heading towards Tinker.
Yeah,
so
it was.
We just wish it had never formed, period.
Not at all. Let's go to Sarah Stewart, live for us now at Ground Zero. Sarah, what's the latest from there?
Yeah, guys, we are in the parking lot of the Moore Medical Center. Even though it is pitch black out here, still a flurry of activity. A lot of lights are being set up. We are seeing a steady stream of police cars and fire trucks entering into the area. Currently, right now, there is a long line of bulldozers entering this neighborhood that is just to the west, just behind the Moore Medical Center, that was very hard hit, just almost completely leveled, all of the houses in there. So we're hoping that it stays dry for everyone sifting through debris, because we are seeing a little bit of lightning in the area, and we just heard a little bit of thunder. So we're hoping it stays dry, because obviously a lot of work will be going on just throughout the night here. Now, I'm told here at the Moore Medical Center, I do not believe that there were any injuries. I'm told they were able to get all the patients that were upstairs down to the ground floor. And it's really just amazing that there were no injuries here. Taking a look at just the massive mess here, just cars tossed everywhere, debris everywhere, 2x4s stuck into the walls of the building, just a total mess. But the good news, no injuries here at this Moore Medical Center. And as we were in the neighborhood just behind here earlier, we did not hear of any fatalities in that neighborhood as well. A lot of people rode out the storms in their storm shelters. Some of them actually had to hold the doors down because the tornado, in one case, actually did rip the door open on a storm shelter. But everyone appeared to be okay in there. We are just north of the Warren Theater, where they had kind of set up a triage area. They had paramedics on standby, ambulances. Any injured people were going over there to be treated. They tell me that they treated probably about 40 people, and good news from over there as well. Almost all of those injuries, they said, were minor, and obviously it's beginning to trickle down. Not as many people moving into there. I think a lot of the work tonight is going to be sifting through debris, clearing areas, and just, securing this area and making it safe for the night hours that are ahead of us. Kevin and Linda.
All right, Sarah, we appreciate that very much. And we know that we want to get you, as we're coming up on the 9:30 hour, let's get you the grim numbers real quick. We've confirmed, a medical examiner, the latest numbers we've seen up here on the desk, 51 fatalities. Unfortunately, we think that's going to go higher because of some little victims probably still inside that school, the Plaza Towers in Moore, and the search and recovery continues there. Dozens and dozens of injuries at all the area hospitals, and so that's kind of where we're at right now on those figures.
In fact, at Children's Hospital, I think they've had about 65 victims that they've treated, but of those, 40 we're told were children. So it makes you wonder where those kids were coming from, whether they were coming from the schools or whether they were in a daycare center or playing. But an extraordinarily large number of children injured in this particular tornado. And
57 patients at Southwest Medical Center Integris, Southwest Integris there. And see how many of those were kids. 5 were there treated and released.
So it's safe to say hundreds were injured.
Yeah,
I mean, it
there's
depends
no
whether
doubt.
they
Yeah,
end
there's
up
no
in the
doubt.
hospital or not. A lot of them are being triaged at the scene and then looking for some place to spend the night.
Absolutely. We have the generosity of Oklahomans never fails to amaze. We're setting up the situation tomorrow where you can help out the victims of this tornado. It's at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. We're partnering with the Salvation Army, and you can come by and bring some supplies for these folks. And we have a list that we want to show you here real quick. And already people are starting to show up. But the real drive begins tomorrow. But if you feel the spirit moves you to bring something up tonight, that'll be used too.
The truck may not be there tonight, but just leave it in our driveway or up there on the front porch, and we will make certain it gets loaded tomorrow and delivered to the Salvation Army and then directly to the rescue workers and those affected by this storm. Mike Morgan's been standing by. What a day you've had.
Linda Saracelli mentioned lightning, and yes, this has happened very quickly. This has just formed literally in the past 5 minutes. There is a thunderstorm now in the Moore area. Now, and it just went up just now, 5 minutes ago. I put the tornado damage track on here because this is obviously where all the folks are that are in search and rescue and recovery. So these are where all the folks are that are trying to piece their lives together. This yellow line, that's the tornado track. And here's the storm. Just to the north of the tornado track. Here's Highway 37. There's OCCA, there's OCCC, there's 89th Street, and here's West Moore High School right there. So far, this is staying just to the north of where thousands of people are either homeless or in rescue and recovery. So it's staying just north of the tornado track, although it might be sprinkling now down around Westmore and at I-35 at the Warren Theater. There might be some sprinkles right there. This is moving just north of due east, so it's traveling in the general direction of Crossroads Mall and Westmore High School in this area here. So it's trying to lift and stay just to the north of the tornado damaged track. But this did go up rather quickly. It does have some small hail. It has very heavy downpours of rain, and it does have some lightning. John Welsh and Bob Moore Chopper 4 was just getting some Jet A fuel, and he had to go around this thunderstorm just about 5 minutes ago as it was going up over the southwest sides of Oklahoma City and northwestern edges of Moore. And it's, as you see, as the beam comes around, it's trying to stay just on the northern side by about a mile of the damaged track. And that's what we have going on right now in South Oklahoma City. Let's go to the watches and warnings. There are no warnings on this, at least not right now. Keep in mind, about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, a storm did go up quickly and produce quarters in Nichols Hills. So these have been going up. Giving you an idea, it's still really unstable outside. The wind shear is not as strong as it was earlier this afternoon. The spinning and turning of the wind is not as strong, but there's still a lot of instability outside. So these storms are going up very fast and producing some hail and not really spinning vigorously. They're spinning a little bit, but not nearly as strongly as they did earlier this afternoon. So right now there's no warning on it, but it is producing some small hail in northern Cleveland County heading up into southern Oklahoma County. The line of severe storms now is in a big arc shape area from Ardmore up into the St. Louis, Missouri area. So Kevin, that's what's happening right now. We'll keep close track of this for the folks in the South Metro.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mike. We've got Scott Hines in the newsroom. He's been keeping track of injuries and fatalities and also other information regarding this storm. Scott?
Hey, Kevin and Linda. Well, we've been receiving phone calls, emails, text messages from folks wondering how they can give back, how they can help at this hour. Of course, first responders and rescuers have their hands full there at Ground Zero. But one way, starting at 10 a.m. tomorrow, we're going to have our truck here outside of the Kfor studios. You can drop off those supplies. We're encouraging folks to give directly to the Red Cross and the Salvation Army. And this just coming into our newsroom, Chesapeake has just now vowed $1 million in aid to the Red Cross, and that's directly to the Moore, Oklahoma Tornado Relief Fund. Again, Chesapeake donating $1 million to aid. That's directly to the Red Cross and their Tornado Relief Fund. Chesapeake is also challenging other corporations to pledge their own relief. This is what we do. Oklahoma's giving spirit. This is a huge donation that Chesapeake is putting up, $1 million to go directly to the Red Cross and to the Oklahoma Tornado Relief Fund, a direct challenge by Chesapeake, challenging other corporations to pledge their own relief. I'm sure we'll hear about many more pledges in the days ahead. So that's what I have so far, and we're going to continue to man the phones and bring any new information as we get it.
Of course, we'll have a truck out in front tomorrow morning. We've joined with the Salvation Army, and UCO is helping us with volunteers to gather some things the Salvation Army needs. I'll tell you what, it wasn't supposed to start until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Folks are already dropping off things on our front porch. We welcome that. We appreciate you. We'll make sure it gets into the truck tomorrow.
And the $1 million from Chesapeake, that's what you call a good corporate neighbor. We're glad that they're involved and hope the other corporations get involved as well. You know, one of Moore's favorite sons is country music superstar Toby Keith, and he just released this statement. This storm has devastated the community that I grew up in.
I rode my bikes through these neighborhoods. I have family and friends and more.
My heart and prayers go to those that have lost so much, but more is strong, and we will persevere.
And he also goes on to say that his heart and prayers go to those who've lost so much, that God be with you all, Toby Keith.
Let's go back to Lance West, who's been on the scene of some really heartbreaking news today involving that elementary school there. Lance?
Hey guys, I can tell you it started raining out here about 15-20 minutes ago, and that certainly is not helping the recovery efforts. The crews are back this way. We see the flashing lights. There are large towers of lights as they search for more children, and the debris behind me is what's left of this neighborhood. And really, there are no homes left. It's just mountains of debris for a square mile. I talked to some friends from EMSA, and they are telling me now that they have transported at least 100 people as a result of the tornado from this particular area. And I was given just a heartbreaking story a short time ago. There was a gentleman in this neighborhood. He survived the tornado, but he found an infant, a baby, in the debris. Sadly, the baby was not alive, and he carried the baby out, handed it over to the EMSA medics. Just heartbreaking. That's one of many of the stories that we're hearing out here. As far as the recovery efforts at the school, we don't have any new information right now. At last check, still 7 children that are confirmed dead. They were searching for anywhere from 20 to 30. We're told that maybe the numbers may come down a little bit, but we haven't got any more information. We're still waiting on that. I did talk to some search and rescuers from several different agencies. They tell me this is the worst they have ever seen since April 19, 1995, when they had to recover those poor little victims of the Murrah building bombing. Guys?
Lance, I have to ask you, you reported earlier when you were first telling us of this tragedy at the school that the little victims were found in the school, but they had drowned. Was there a basement that they were hiding in, or what do you know about that?
You know what? I haven't given specific information. I did hear some rumors that there may be a basement in that school, but I suspect, obviously, there's piping in there. If some pipes burst as a result of the tornado, there could have been some flooding in the hallways, in the classrooms. It's really too hard to tell because it is really just a mountain of debris. There's not a whole lot of that school that's left other than just twisted metal and cinder blocks and emergency personnel doing the very best they can to bring some sort of closure to the families out here tonight.
And we are all very grateful for your efforts and, of course, the efforts of all the people who are out there tonight trying to make things in whatever way they can a bit better.
Absolutely. Thanks, Lance. Let's give you another quick rundown of the shelters available tonight because a lot of folks know people in Moore and might be able to text them this information. Again, St. Andrew's United Methodist at 2727 Southwest 119th. That's roughly 119th and May in Oklahoma City. They're also in need of generators if you folks could help them get some of those.
Also, we're receiving information about the Moore Community Center, 201 South Howard in Moore, open for a public shelter. I think we have a continuing list here. Newcastle Storm Shelter, 851 North Carr in Newcastle. And then some of these that are going to follow are for those folks affected by the twisters yesterday around the Shawnee-Kearney area.
Like that one in Kearney right there. And then another one, I believe, in Shawnee, right, the Shawnee Athletic Center for the folks who were displaced yesterday by that tornado.
Also receiving a report from Journey Church in Norman that they're currently sending a caravan of SUVs to the Chick-fil-A at 19th Street in Moore. They are willing to pick up anyone who can make it to that location, and perhaps there are already people there, and they will provide shelter for them and meet whatever needs they might have at that time and bring them back to the church if they need shelter. So a lot of Oklahomans reaching out to the folks in need tonight.
And again, the numbers, as far as we know right now, 51 fatalities confirmed. That number is expected to go up, as you heard from Lance West a little while ago. Dozens and dozens of injuries, probably hundreds and probably thousands of people who are displaced tonight. We saw many of them in that video walking with what the belongings they had left from those homes that were basically turned into sticks. But this is important. A lot of the video that we showed you, only one thing was left intact, and that was in the storm. Those were the storm shelters that the folks had been hiding in. And a lot of those folks who went through 1999, May 3rd, got those storm shelters in and hid out there today like they were supposed to.
One viewer is asking for more information about Briarwood School, one of the 2 elementary schools that were leveled in the Moore area. And we heard from Allie Meyer, this person is wanting to know about the kids there, any recent reports about that. Allie Meyer reported that all of the kids at Briarwood had been accounted for and that there were no missing children from Briarwood. So that's the good news that we can pass along that Allie Meyer reported earlier tonight.
Because when Bob Moore Chopper 4 flew over that, John Welsh, he flew over that one first. And we saw that school was in shambles, and then he flew to the other one. And we were really worried about the kids in Briarwood as well. So that's good news. Come on up with that, Jill. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We're getting more information here as minutes go by. Bob Moore Chopper 4 is flying back. He's going to be landing, and we'll maybe get a chance to talk with John. In case you weren't with us earlier, John lives very near the area that was hit. As a matter of fact, when he was up in the air, he was calling his family to make sure they were in their safe spot, and they were, and their home was not damaged, but almost. And so he had that on his mind, as well as this kind of destruction that he saw after that enormous monster mowed through that area.
Jill just handed me an update on the injuries. Hundreds have been treated at area hospitals. In fact, until 45 minutes ago, OU Medical Center was under a code yellow. That's when they're receiving a massive number of casualties. Happy to say the code yellow has expired. They believe they've treated 65 patients, 20 adults, 45 kids with a wide range of injuries. Some are critical. St. Anthony's is reporting 21 known patients. Norman Regional has treated at least, they say, 90 patients. The situation's still fluid, and the number may grow once all the patients are accounted for.
And we're just looking at some of that. Look at the cars just twisted and blown apart there by that tornado when it went through. And they're staging at the Warren Theater
Triage.
in Moore. Right, the Triage, actually next to the new IMAX. That wasn't damaged too heavily, so they are staging there. Their triage, getting folks in and out. The National Guard has been activated by Governor Mary Fallin. The Guard is in that neighborhood right now just to try and locate more people. Also, unfortunately, there were some early cases or early allegations of some looting. The National Guard is there to take care of those situations as well. And remember this, Linda, this was at the beginning of our coverage. This home somehow caught on fire.
And emergency personnel simply had to let it burn to the ground because they were trying to deal with salvaging lives from that debris. And they don't know what caused that fire, possibly a gas leak of some sort that was ignited. But the fire was left unattended and the house burned. Yeah, We've received an email from Carrie Watkins, who's the executive director of the Oklahoma City National Memorial. She told us that she heard people referring to this tragedy as the worst they'd seen since 1995. That, of course, involved a lot of children, and a lot of children who lost their parents and their brothers and sisters, and some children, of course, who died in the daycare center. But she asks you to go to their site because they have put together some of the information that they've garnered over the years from some of the psychologists and psychiatrists they worked with in dealing with childhood grief, trauma, and disaster mental health. So if you have children affected by this, we invite you to go to the Oklahoma City National Memorial and Museum website. There's a whole list of possible things that may be of interest to you in terms of responses that you can give your teens and ways to handle this situation to perhaps lessen some of the trauma. We learn through tragedy and we learn through experience, and that would be a great resource for those who want to help their kids deal with this. You never get used to something like this, but you sometimes get used to not getting used to it and dealing with it in a certain way. Mike Morgan standing by. Mike,
Kevin, Kevin and Linda, I'd just like to bring up something really fast. You're just voicing over that video from John Welsh just right there. We've been looking at this video all day. As the days go by, the curiosity in my mind, these houses that were just basically swept clean, and you could tell there are literally hundreds of them that are swept clean. You know, there was a huge post-analysis on May 3rd, 1999, as to where those people were, what they did. Were they below ground? Were they in a closet? Were they in an interior bathroom? You know, where were they? The curiosity in my mind is just asking questions, if I can speak so openly about it, about all those hundreds of homes that we just saw 30 seconds ago, where all those people were that survived, and where they were when it hit. Did they leave their house? Did they have a safe room in that house? Do they have a basement in that house? Maybe there's one storm cellar or basement per